Go ahead, bring Diane Miller and Judy.
So what was number 3 that we?
Build relationships,
Yep.
is that I had?
Build relationships.
Yep. Good evening.
Welcome,
Hi,
Diane.
how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you very much for having me tonight.
Thank you for coming. The structure we're gonna do, you're gonna give you 5, 10, 15 minutes, whatever you want to take to give us a little bit about yourself and your background, and then we've got a set of questions here. They're in front of you. We're just gonna
Sure.
go one counselor at a time, and then if it leads to some more question discussion, that's gonna try to be as formal and try to relax as much as possible. And so go ahead and give us a little bit about yourself.
Once again, thank you very much for the opportunity to come before you this evening. I'm very excited about the position. Maybe to start, a little bit about me. I've been in the public sector for about 17 years in a leadership role, executive director, city manager, that kind of role. I have a passion for small communities to help them to prosper and grow. I limit myself to putting my talents into small communities. Right now, I am working on my master's degree from the University of Phoenix in public administration and organizational leadership. My contributions in the leadership role, as I would quantify it, extend beyond the walls of City Hall. And what I mean by that is that I'm a community volunteer. I'm a very active community volunteer. I have a 15-year-old that's getting braces this month. And aside from that, everything about the position, from the location to the scope of responsibilities, really excites me. So again, thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you. So maybe just to expand maybe a little more, so maybe you could talk a little bit about what you feel are your most significant work or educational accomplishments to date and how those achievements apply to the position here in Rockville.
My work and educational achievements?
Either one, work or educational.
I'm going to go with work, because what it really enables me to do is really bring forth my talents and skills from a community perspective. And what I'm successful in doing is, as I would say, is uniting staff, community, and council towards the common vision that the council sets out. I've been successful with several economic development projects where I've started from a grassroots, developing the stakeholders to support the project. I've written grants and been awarded up to $5 million from the federal government for economic related projects. I think it's my talents in terms of helping achieve a vision that the policymakers bring forth through bringing staff together as well as community. I enjoy very much community engagement. I think that's one of my strongest suits, along with finance and strategic planning.
Thank you.
Okay. What do you feel are your most significant work or educational accomplishment to date? And how do these achievements apply to your position?
I read that.
You read them? Okay. 3 then. Tell us about a time when you had to work closely with a co-worker who you disliked or with whom you had trouble working with. What did you, I guess, do to make that relationship work so you could succeed in your job?
You know, I've always been in a leadership role, so I've had people that would report to me. And I've had, in my professional career of 17 years, I've had to fire or terminate 2 individuals. And I have a 5-step process that I use to ensure that we're covering all the bases, that there's no miscommunication, that there's no training issues, things like that. What I like to bring forward from the commission or from the council is their strategic plan and put that into the performance evaluation process. it's my goal as the leader to work with council and achieve their vision and goals and objectives. And by putting that into a performance evaluation, that helps me succeed with the council and helps the staff person succeed with the council as well. So it's really, from my perspective, it's open communication, it's clearly identifying what the expectations are, and then evaluating or measuring those expectations to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Next question, what specific or special knowledge, skills, and abilities do you think the city administrator position should have, and how do you feel your past work performance demonstrates that you have these qualities?
I think it's important for the city administrator to be approachable, not only by the council and staff, but by the community, an open door policy. In terms of specific knowledge, certainly municipal governance, certainly understanding your property taxes, and those are kind of complicated. I sat down with our county auditor and I went through that process a few years ago, so I would need to get brushed up on it, but that would be something in terms of knowledge that I think it's important. How does my past work performance demonstrate it? I think it's by the success. I would invite you to, in my resume, I provided some testimonials from former council members, mayors, and in all respects, it outlined my ability to work in concert with the council, with the staff, with the community, and achieve very large goals and objectives for the organization. I think I have a demonstrated successful past in terms of community engagement, as well as organizational skills and leading staff as well.
Dwayne?
Ready? Okay, great. The previous candidate came in and he asked us to, or we were allowed to use his first name. So are we recognizing you as
fine.
Diane?
Yes.
And I'm Dwayne, okay?
Thanks, Dwayne.
As a counselor, something like that. And on the next page, we have some more of the behavioral type questions or the hypothetical questions, and as we progress forward, you'll see that there's some more probing type questions as
Okay.
we progress forward. And the Personnel Committee has, and I shared this with the other previous candidate, the Personnel Committee has allowed us to personalize some of these questions so that we can get to really know you as we progress. So this one's more of a generic. Briefly describe the three most important personal qualities that you believe necessary to operate efficiently as a administrator / clerk for the city of Rockville.
For the city of Rockville.
Yes.
I think it's having effective communication skills. Again, it's being approachable, not only by staff, but by council, but also by community, that you can be a problem solver. What's worked well for me is my 5-step approach to problem solving for community members. We had a special assessment situation, and I was able to help a resident basically cut his special assessment value in half because of the way his property was laid out, things like that. So those are the 3 top qualities that I think are important for an administrator in the public sector.
So you've mentioned your 5-step process a couple of times. Can you just briefly describe what that entails?
5-step process in terms of discipline or?
Well, you just referenced it here in terms of operating effectively.
Problem solving.
Problem solving. Okay.
Problem solving. It's to be very brief, it's using the SWOT approach, identify the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities and threats, and taking it one step further. I'm a very analytical person. Okay. So it's analyzing the data that you get from that process. That's kind of the 5th step for me.
Okay.
That's what I use.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, Rick?
it's very important that the person hired for this position shows up for work on a consistent basis and on time. On a scale of 1 to 5, how would you rate your dependability and attendance? And on the same scale, how would your current manager rate you when we call them?
With 1 being the best.
One's being the best?
Yeah.
I would say 1. I'd say plus 1. I think you lead by example. That's my philosophy of leadership. And if you're not in your office, how can you garner the respect and credibility from your staff and from the community? So I'm a very firm believer in leadership and leading by example.
All right. This
And your
pos-
current, would say, your current manager, how would they rate you?
I'm in a unique position where I'm a city administrator, but as a consultant, because it's a town of about 1,500. And I just sat down with, I guess you'd call him I don't know if I'd call him my boss, but my peer. And he says, just go at it, Diane, you're on the right track. So I would say a 1, 2, just based on his response today. And we have some challenges where I'm at, some big challenges, but I like to look at them as opportunities for improvement.
This position requires excellent relationship building skills. Please tell us how you intend to create and maintain effective relationships with your coworkers and your supervisors, which I suppose in this case is council.
Yes.
So,
I have a history of being an effective supervisor in terms of being a positive mentor or coach. That's my philosophy with staff. Yes, I'm a supervisor, but I like to consider myself a mentor or a coach. They've been in their position for, I'm sure, a period of time, and they're good at it, otherwise they wouldn't be there. With the council, again, I would invite you to call my references or take a look at at the testimonials that just reinforce that I'm a very congenial person. I worked on an economic development project called The Hub that took over 2 years to develop working relationships with MnDOT, the Corps of Engineers, the Met Council, community leaders, county leaders, local leaders. I do relationship building, especially from the grassroots space, is very, very, very effective. I enjoy that very much. I like bringing people into the fold of the vision that the council lays out. I'm very good at doing that. So I would say I'm very effective as being a congenial relationship builder, both with staff and with with the council.
okay, thanks.
What do you consider a job well done, and what personal factor do you consider most important in evaluating yourself a success?
In the role as a city administrator, my role is to bring forward and carry out the policy and the vision of the council. And when we reach our goals and objectives collectively with staff and community, that's a job well done. Then I am successful. That's how I measure it. I would invite the council to put those kind of evaluation or measures into a performance process, so that we're continually on the same page and striving towards the same objectives and goals. That's what a measure of success for me is when we all can sit down and say we've done our very best and we achieved what we set out to do.
Okay, next question is, give us an example of a work situation when you demonstrated excellent analytical and problem-solving skills.
Let me tell you a little story first, and that'll bring into my analytical skills. Since I got out of college, I was an analyst assistant with the Pillsbury Company. We did a lot of forecasting, analyzing for Pillsbury, and I've taken those steps forward. When I was city manager for Canby, I would still be there, but my sister gave me a call, and she was diagnosed with ALS. Please come home and help me. So I hung it up, And I helped my sister, or my brother-in-law, take care of my sister till she passed away. During that time, I was a consultant, a business consultant. And what I would do, I not only did the accounting and forecasting, but I was more of a business manager where I would help them forecast what they needed to do to prosper and grow, both in the private sector and the public sector. I've been doing that for about 5 years now. Right now, I'm in the position where I want to take a step back into the public administration full-time. That's why this position really appealed to me. When I first sat down, I told you my passion was to help communities, especially small communities, to prosper and grow. And that's by taking the information, the data, whatever source it's from, and analyzing it in terms of what the objectives are by the council and how we can make that information work for us in a more productive manner.
Thank you.
Okay. Diane, we're going to go to item number 10. A citizen is very upset with you because they did not get the answer from you they wanted. He or she states that they are going to contact the mayor and file a complaint. How do you handle this?
To be real honest, I don't know if a complaint would get that far. I've dealt with the public for 17 years in terms of different problems, different degree, and I'm a listener. I may not always have the answer, but I do the problem solving. We look at the options. We talk about it. It may take a couple of meetings. It may take a couple of coffee meetings. This is how I like to approach it, kind of on an informal, laid-back basis, so they're willing to talk and tell me exactly what the real problem is. Sometimes they may come in with what they think is the issue, but when you really listen, then you might uncover what the real problem is. If it got to the point, I would encourage them to talk to the mayor and do what they felt was necessary to get a resolution to their problem. I would give the mayor a heads up. Depending on what the situation is, what I do, I like to give the council members a heads up on issues before they become bigger issues. It may be an email, it may be a phone call, it may be a weekly report, depending on what the situation is, so that they're not blindsided. That's how I like to operate. Keep the communication open both ways. Again, depending how the mayor wants to handle it, I would sit down with the mayor and put out the information that I know to him or her. And again, I would just encourage the citizen to go forward with what they think is in the best avenue for them to resolve their problem, but I would still try to work with the mayor to find a resolution to the problem. That's what's key. If it's against me, if I did something wrong, I would be the first one to apologize.
Okay, thank you.
Rick?
We got number 11. How would you handle a situation in which your supervisor, which would be the city council, tells you to do something in one way, but you feel strongly that there's a better way to do it?
You know, part of my role with the city council is to inform and bring all the information forward to the city council so they're well informed. If I could be satisfied with the point that I provided all the information that I had, and they made a decision that was contrary to staff recommendation, so be it, because they may have other information that I'm not aware of, could be from a constituent, could be from whatever, and I'll just roll with it. I've been in that position before. I like to bring forth staff recommendations with the pros and the cons, but again, my role is to make sure that the council is very well informed before they make a policy decision or whatever the decision is. But I just roll with it.
Thank you.
All right. Can you maybe highlight for us what you know about the city of Rockville and why you're interested in joining our team?
I've been reading your website about the granite, things like that. because of the sense of community, you look at your pictures on your website. It's all about the sense of community. I don't want just a job. I want a community that I can raise my son in, and that's where being part of a city that really values that sense of community with its residents and with the services it provides, and being progressive and really wanting to prosper and grow. I think there was like 100 businesses that are in Rockford. I'm very good at economic development, as putting the pieces together. I know the tools that are available through the state. I can help bring the city to a more prosperous goal that's outlined by the city council.
Could I elaborate on a
Sure,
response
go
on
ahead,
that
Rick.
one? You kind of hinted that you would be wanting to be part of a community, and
Yeah,
it seems like you're in Chanhassen now?
that's where I live right now.
Right. So you would be relocating?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I've been Googling houses for sale in Rockford, or Rockville. I really want an acreage. I rescue dogs. So I work with an organization called No Dogs Left Behind, where I'm a volunteer and I foster them. So I'd like to find 1 to 5 acres. So, no, it would be, like I said, I made the decision to step back into public administration, and I've always been part of the community where I work. I believe in living and playing. And I grew up in a small town, smaller than Rockville, and the sense of community that a small, quality community has when all the pieces drive together, that's what I want for my son. So yes, I would relocate. It wouldn't be till June, when school's out. So, but that would be a priority. And to be real honest, I've taken steps already with my current house to get it ready for selling, because I know somewhere I will land in a small community.
Thank you.
Okay, Don.
What areas within the job are you least familiar with, and how would you plan to get up to speed to learn the issues and associated opportunities?
You know, it's been a while before. I used to do TIF reports. Do you have TIF districts here?
No.
Oh, okay.
We have EDA, but not TIF district. We have-
Okay, well, there's reports that have to be done every year, and people that do them charge like $6,000. I mean, it's big money. But I talked to Kurt, I forgot his name. He's like the guru of TIF reports at the state of Minnesota, where you submit them. And I used to be able to do the TIF reports and save Canby. They had 21 districts, and save them $6,000 a year by being able to do it in-house. I haven't been able to do it for the last few years, like I said, taking care of my sister and stuff, but it's doing things in-house. I think I'm fairly good at being analytical and making the numbers balance. Different things like that I can do in-house. I bring that to the table. I like analyzing, I like forecasting, I like putting the pieces together based on what we identify. When I was with Canby, the EDA would receive $25,000 a year from the city council. And we would help with seed money to businesses. And what I did for the EDA was take one of the business, it was a 2-person business that they did leasing on a national level. And in the 6 months' time, I compiled the data, did a little number crunching and stuff, and in a 6-month time, that 2-person office contributed $55,000 to the local economy. And that was just one of the new businesses that we were able to bring to Canby with using seed money and other state tools. But it's using that kind of information and bring it back to the council. They were more than happy to contribute $25,000 a year to the EDA to use for seed money, because the performance was there. The performance, the measures, everything was there. It was success.
Number 14, if I were to call your current employer, what would he or she say about you?
It would be a consistent answer with all my employers. I take on projects that are difficult, and I and I can glean success from them. I'm a go-getter. I'm not a maintenance person. If you want somebody to maintain the city, that's not me. I like to put the pieces together and make it work and grow. That's what I like to do. I am very strategic. When a vision is laid out for me, I can get you to the goals and objectives that you outline for us. I'm very strategic in my thinking and in how I go forward.
Next page, item number 15, Diane. What would you do if a council member or members would try to, and here Jeff had that same question last time, it's convoluted here, but the gist of it is, if we would want to have it done a certain way or maybe continue longer than necessary, what would you do? You know, we're tankers.
Depending on what it is, the first thing I would do is what's the cost implication from an analysis perspective? Are you gaining ground or are you losing ground by continuing it? You know, it all depends what the project is. Maybe it's beneficial, the cost benefit is beneficial to make it more long-term, but I would analyze it from a perspective to see if the cost benefit makes sense. That would be my first thought. You know, a lot of it depends what the project is. If it's developing a policy, did I not do my job in providing all the necessary information? So I would look at myself to make sure that you're well informed. If it's a matter of new policy, I tend to take things from a number perspective, from a cost benefit perspective.
And so if I can just add a disclaimer, number 15 was one of those canned questions that came from the League of Minnesota Cities.
Okay.
Okay, from this point forward, we get into, and the Personnel Committee asked
Okay.
for council input in some of more of the specifics, so in more of the probing questions. So at this point forward, we're gonna get into a little bit more of those probing. So
Sure.
it wasn't us. Disclaimer, yeah, number 15.
That's
Thank
all
you.
right. Yep.
Thank you.
Number 16, tell us about your experience in writing and maintaining ordinances, resolutions, policies, and rules, etc.
Let me reference to my current position. The first thing I did was what I like to do is to just kind of observe, try to find out how I can interject myself into the process so I'm a catalyst, that I'm a positive influence into what's already being done. One of the things that the community is behind on is collection. They're about $10,000 down in terms of collection of past due water bills. So first thing I did was look at the ordinance, talk to the mayor, and we're reworking the holes in the ordinance. We're also reworking some, we have Dollar General coming in, and their parking requirements through their planning and zoning ordinances that deal with that, they're too restrictive. So I'm working with the Planning and Zoning Committee to rewrite those as well. I'm very good at writing. That's one of my strong suits, is my written communication skills. I don't recreate things unless I have to. I like to look to see what other communities are doing that are in the similar boat, similar situation, and then go from there in terms of working with the council to maybe redraft or bring current ordinances, policies, things like that. It's a continuing process to continue to maintain them and update them. That's my perspective on them.
Thank you.
May I just quickly do a follow-up? Sure. The previous candidate, I also added a footnote as it relates to this question. We were blessed in the city of Rockville to have a city administrator, and it's my own personal observation, none of the other fours, they care to chime in, they certainly may, but we were blessed with having a staff person that did a phenomenal job of being able to write resolutions and ordinances, and she retired.
Yep,
Okay.
I talked to Reddy.
Okay, and so having said that, it's a very unique opportunity, and as I understand it, there's a, through the league, there's called a listserv that a lot of the
Yep.
clerks and administrators work. Have you had experience in that regards, or do you?
I like to use my resources that are out there, and the league is key resource for me.
Okay,
It's also, we need an interpretation on the water ordinance regarding the past due bill. So I went to the league first, and then I went to our attorney, based on what the league said, because there were some Supreme Court rulings, things like that, as it dealt with renters and landlords. And then I took that information to the attorney. So I like to check the league out first, and then I check out other communities, and then I take it to the attorney.
thank you.
Okay, Sue?
Can you share with us your working knowledge of accounting and financial management, preparing a budget, and preparing for an audit?
You know, that probably is one of my significant strengths. I have a finance background. When my sister was ill, I did freelancing, accounting, and finance. I have 17 years of preparing budgets, managing budgets, forecasting budgets, analyzing budgets, doing audits. I've run the full gambit of all financial or fiscal administration. And that's just in a nutshell. I've done multi-million-dollar budgets. I've done million-dollar budgets. The largest budget I've done is $25 million that I've been responsible for. And it's a continuing process of analyzing the budget. Are we using the dollars in the best way possible? That's key. That's key.
Okay, number 18, describe your working knowledge regarding personnel law, open meeting law, with proper notices to public, and a thorough understanding of legal and technical aspects of city government.
You know, being in a leadership role in small communities, you wear many hats. And one of them is personnel. We follow the rules set by the state as adopted, for instance, through the League of Minnesota Cities, so you don't get sued. I mean, that's bottom line. It also makes for a good workplace. In terms of legal and technical aspects of city government, again, being in a small organization, you wear many hats. It's just part of day-to-day operations that you become familiar with it. I always would, depending on the issue, I would always touch base with the attorney to make sure my interpretation is correct, but after doing it for 17 years, I've been around the block. I understand what the issues are, how to interpret the law, things like that. Again, for instance, with the water ordinance, I went to the League of Minnesota Cities because of the Supreme Court rulings. They had some information about that. I know I'm able to interpret that information, touch base with the attorney, the city attorney, and then implement it based on that to protect the interests of the city.
The next question, highlight for us your ability to establish an effective working relationship with city staff, elected officials, and the general public.
You know, as successful as I am with economic development projects, it's because of the effective relationships that I've been able to build with community leaders, with elected officials, with just the community at large. Again, the hub project that we worked on, it was like a 2-year project. I don't know if you're probably familiar with, it's kind of difficult to fill in marshland. I filled in 24 acres the right way. It was a 2-year process of approvals to get that done, but I folded in all the community leaders, all the stakeholders, contractors, vendors, community members, the Met Council. I folded them all in so they all had an interest in the success of the project. And it took land that was producing no revenue for tax base into a very highly tax base piece of property with about 100 jobs that it created as well. So I'm very good at developing relationships and bringing stakeholders into the fold.
Thank you. Diane?
Jeff, if I may, or Mr. Mayor, and that is, you were talking about wetlands, and it
Yep.
happens to be one of my strong suits or something like that. I serve in a watershed district as one of the managers. So what watershed district was that in, or was it in a,
It was in, Minnewaska?
Minnewaska?
Yeah, thank you. And we mitigated 2 for 1 out in Carver County.
Very good.
But we did it the right way. We did it the right way.
And I can feel the pain that you went through or something like that. And
It's a
that's-
2-year process, yes.
Okay, thank you. Item number 20, city management is very much ingrained with many stakeholders, groups, as we just alluded to, Department of Natural Resources, Stearns County Environmental Services, and the Department of Health, and Department of Transportation, and others. We in Rockville have 2 recreational lakes. Shoreland management is very, very crucial, which falls under the Stearns County Environment. And so, can you share with us your background and your philosophies and how we can work together with those stakeholder groups?
I was with the County of Anoka for about 6 years, so I'm familiar with environmental services, Department of Health, things like that. I've worked with MnDOT extensively on projects to get like right-of-ways from major highways for bus-only lanes, things like that. Again, the hub project, it was no small project, bringing everybody forward or together. I try to identify areas that they have an interest in terms of why they should support our project, and then communicating with them, working with them, having them see where their interest should lie in our project. That's where the success comes in. It's so fun. I enjoy it very much. I don't think, I've worked with the DNR. When I was with the city manager for Siren, we had Lakeshore Lake in town, in the township, as well as in the city. And we would go from 1,000 population up to 4,000 every summer. I sat on the Chanhassen Planning Commission for 4 years, and we have several lakes in the city of Chanhassen that we did shoreline management for that went through the Planning Commission. So I was all part of that too. What I do very well is work effectively with people from all avenues of government or the private sector.
Okay, and if I may, Diane, just quickly follow up. We have a city water, and there is is it not a mandate, but help me out, Rick, what's the
Required.
water supply?
Well, required,
Yeah,
water
by
supply
DNR.
plan.
DNR
Water
requirement.
supply
Is it the
plan.
wellhead protection plan?
Yeah.
No,
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 it's-
no,
Not
this is
It's
more.
a new one that the DNR,
Yeah, and it's starting
That's
off
legislature.
2016, 17, and 18. We happen to get ours in 2016. So that's one of the first things that's going to come out, a water
water supply plan.
supply
Okay.
plant.
Is this looking at your wells?
It's
And kind of
very
forecasting?
It's very similar to the wellhead protection
I
plan.
know. I
There's
wrote a
lot of
well-
things.
Yeah, I've written the wellhead protection plan for Canby.
Yeah, we have a wellhead protection
Yeah.
plan, but the
That's
water
just been-
supply plan is
Is a
just-
part of it?
It's another requirement
Okay.
by the
DNR.
state and the DNRs.
Yeah, legislation, but it's under the auspices of DNR. Wellhead protection, we just did that 3 years ago or something like that, so we got a year. It's every
Yeah.
10 years or
Everyone's
whenever.
also
it's filed.
asking sort of what are we doing for conservation efforts in the
Yeah.
city and those types of things.
Yeah, it's like
So it goes beyond really your
around the
wellhead protection.
around the wells and stuff like that. So I've been there to some extent, not real in depth. But like I said, I wrote the plan for Canby for the wellhead protection plan. They had nothing. So I sat down with the DNR and I forgot the other organizations, and we came up with our plan. And right now for Lewiston, where I'm at, they're drilling a new well. So I'm working with PFA to get funding, things like that in place and stuff, so.
Number 21, as it relates to administrative responsibilities, give us your take on long and short-range goals regarding supervision, performance, and training of counselors, committees, and our staff.
Is this professional development,
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah,
essentially? First, I would look at to see what your budget is. I'd look at to see what your policies are. I would try to do an assessment of where we're lacking, kind of the strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. I've put together plans for professional development for both the supervisors, the commission or the council, as well as staff. And what I like to do is interject that into their performance evaluations. So it's a measure, so you have feedback in terms of how effective we're doing in terms of professional development. But like I said, it's really doing an assessment, what's your budget, that kind of thing. And then going forward from that, based on what your values are, things like that.
Can you talk about how you work with council, given that, you know, council changes periodically and you have different people up here who may not have been council members ever in the past?
What I like to do with brand new people is to sit down with them and give them like an orientation. What's priorities, what's secondary, what's coming down the turnpike again, kind of the heads up type of thing. I like to give them a leaving packet. You know, I put together a packet of information so they have a reference materials. And sometimes like when there's a new mayor and maybe they haven't been on the council before, I'll take them aside and talk about Robert's Rules of Order. How to maybe run a meeting, things like that. Just FYI, I like to do that. How do I keep everybody on the same page? I hope you have a strategic plan. If you don't, that's one of my priorities I'd like to bring forward. In terms of outlining some common goals and objectives and tying your CIP and tying your funding policies to it. That's how you keep new people and everybody on the same page. Yes, they can take different directions, and they should, because things change. You update them. It's a living document. It continues to change. That's what I like to work on. That's how I keep staff. That's how I keep the council. That's how I keep the community in terms of being productive. And when you, as the community leader, are out in the community, and if I've done my job in terms of supporting you appropriately, you can get that input from your constituents in terms of, well, what do you think about this? Because people have been educated. People have been informed. That's what my job is all about.
Thank you. So, only a couple more. Is there anything job-related that we haven't asked you about, but you wanted to share with us?
You know, I live my life by core values. You know, I talk about the sense of community. It's how you carry forward, what policies you put out there. Those are the kind of things that I look at in a community. Those are the kind of things that I can help influence how the community grows and the direction it takes. That's what I enjoy doing. That's what I'll just call it the value added. That's what I bring. That's what I bring. I'm sure you can find somebody to push your paper, write your policies, things like that. But what I bring is that value added. Like I said, I make it a priority to relocate because I'm a firm believer that you live, work, and play in the area that you're committed to.
Okay, the final one here. Why should you be one of our top candidates for the position of,
You know, I've been in the position for 17 years in a small, growing community. I have core values that will support your vision for your community. I have experience in terms of economic development, finance, human resources, all the nuts and bolts that make a sound foundation for the city in terms of staff, in terms of community residents. I'm the full meal deal, and I have a successful record. That's why I think I am the top candidate for the position.
Do you have any questions for us?
Just when do you think you'll be making your decision? To be real honest, I'm interviewing on Saturday too. Like I said, I've made the commitment to step back into public administration, and eventually I will find a small town that'll be a nice fit.
I think the answer is soon.
Very, very soon,
Okay.
yeah.
If I may just ask also, and that is, as I see it right now, so you are self-employed the last 4 or 5 years or something like that?
Yes.
So the question I asked of a previous candidate, we will undoubtedly be going through a process of checking your credentialing and some reviewing testimonials and things of that nature. So once we make a decision that we are extending to you a written letter of engagement, and you accept it, and we're all completely done and we're ready to go, how much time would you need after that? Because we can't start today, but I mean,
No.
once we get to that point, when would be an appropriate amount of time before you could be?
I would say
gainfully-
30 days because of the projects that I'm engaged with right now for the city that I'm working with. I wouldn't leave them out on a branch at all. So about 30 days.
Yep. Very good, thanks.
Anybody else got
I
any?
do have one other follow-up, and that was when we had the job description and the ad going out, I believe I read you've seen it in the League of Minnesota Cities, correct? We had a range of values that we were willing to pay, and I don't have it right in front of me, I should know it, but I'm assuming you reviewed that?
Yes.
And you would be able to fall into that category?
Yes, and it's not just the dollars and cents that I'm looking for. I'm looking for the community,
Okay,
for a quality community. Also, what plays into it is the benefits package. So I'm looking for the full package. I'm not just looking for dollars and cents. I'm willing to trade dollars and cents for benefits. I'm willing to trade the compensation package for a great quality town.
okay.
So,
Well, if we're cheerleaders for this city, we think we are a quality city, okay? But if I could just follow up, in that range or something like that, benefit package, I think the standard that we would have is what we've had in the past, you know, or something like that, pretty much a standard. But that all goes as we go forward to find out who that finalist is.
Right.
And then negotiate with that individual, and it'll be in a written fashion, okay? So I think I have the questions answered I need. Unless others?
Anybody else? All right, well, thank you very much for
Thank you so
coming.
much.
thank you very much, and I wish you the best.
All right,
Thanks.
thank
Safe journey?
Have a
back?
good-
Thank you.
Have a
Yep.
good
Safe journey back?
Have a
Okay.
good evening.
I brought my son with me. He's doing YouTube.
All right.
Okay. And Judy has information to get a hold of you, correct? Or,
It should be on my resume, yes.
okay, that's the current and all that, okay.